Hey guys, I just wanted to pop in and let you know about something that I'm going to be doing for the next few days. Every year about this time I start to get a lot of questions about my Christmas trees and my whole process, tips and tricks, sources for my trees and ornaments, and a lot of those types of things. So I'm going to be spending the next few days going through my whole process in video, how I put up my trees, different tips and tricks to get that more kind of professional look. I'm just going to go through and answer a lot of the different questions that I receive during this time of the year and just walk through my whole process. I'm a visual person, so I think it's easier sometimes to see it done than to read about it. So I just thought I'd go through my whole process. Today I'm going to start with how I actually assemble my artificial tree. I did this actually a couple weeks ago. I have just a few tips that I wanted to share about my process in putting up my tree every year that I think make it look better in the end, and it actually, I think, makes the process a lot smoother. I've also started to compile a source list on my blog for all of the products that I'll be using, and I'll continue to update that and add more to it as I can find those sources online. So we have 4 Christmas trees in our house. I have my big main one downstairs, my big 9-foot one. And that's the one that I'm going to be sharing the most about in these videos. It's the one that I receive the most questions about, and it's in our main living area. It's the one that I kind of put the most time into. So I am just going to share my process with that one. Okay, so this first batch of videos is me giving my tips and tricks on how to put up an artificial tree. And this goes for flocked and non-flocked trees. There's a lot of things in here that apply to both. Hey everyone. I am actually putting up my Christmas tree right now. I know it's a little early. We have people coming to photograph our house next month, so I needed to kind of get a little bit of a head start on it. But I always get so many questions about it. So I just wanted to kind of take you along and show you my different tips and tricks for how I set up my tree. Me and my baby bump here. It might be a little bit interesting setting up a 9-foot tree, but just bear with me and then I can share some of the method to my madness when it comes to setting up my Christmas trees. So while I'm showing you on this big flocked tree, a lot of the same tips you'll use on any of the other kinds of artificial trees. It's really important that you kind of take time to set up your tree and put everything together properly so that the tree will look beautiful for the whole season and you won't have to mess with it as much when you're trying to put your decorations on. I just usually take a few minutes and make sure I get everything nice and perfect before I try and do any kind of ornaments or decorating on it. And then that way everything's fluffed and beautiful and it makes everything look better. You get a better end result, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, so in those pictures I showed you that I always put down a towel first, and the reason that I do that is because sometimes when I get done with my tree, I kind of want to move it a little bit here or there to make sure that it sits in the room the way that I want. And if you have a towel underneath it, it's always a lot easier to be able to nudge it here or there without having to just move the stand by itself. So if you end up needing to move it at all, you're going to be really happy that you put a towel underneath it. Your next step is to assemble the tree, to put the tree on the stand. And most artificial trees come in sections. This is not for one of those trees where you have to stick the branches in individually. Those are older trees. This is a newer tree. So the first thing that you do is you pull out your biggest piece, your bottom piece, and you stick it into the base, and then you make sure that you plug it in and make sure that all of the lights on it are still working. This is really important because if you get your tree all set up and your lights aren't working, you're going to be pretty upset. So you can see here that I already put my towel down, I put my base down, and then I put my very first section of the tree in and I plugged it in, and it looks like all of my lights are working. I did have to restring some lights on this last year, So then after everything's plugged in, it looks like it's working, we go through and we fluff this very first layer. You don't want to get your tree all the way up and then fluff it. You want to fluff it in sections and it will look way better in the end. So when I go through and fluff my branches, what I mean by fluff the branches is, usually when they come out of the bag, they're pretty flat. And I just go through and kind of pull them apart, make sure they're separated, and just add some dimension. So I went ahead and put on my second section of tree, and as you can see, some of the lights are not working. So I'm going to go ahead and troubleshoot that before I move any further, because I need all of my lights to work. Okay, I got all my lights working. It turned out I didn't have one of my things plugged in. So that's good. If we ever get to the point where I have a burned out light, I'll get out my little light zapper tool that fixes it and show you how I use that. So I'm going to go through at this point and fluff that big second section and make sure that it is kind of turned on the tree in the direction that I like it to go. I don't know if you can see, there's kind of this gap right here in the middle. So I'm going to take this little section and just turn it a little bit so that there's not that big kind of hole in the middle. And then I'll be fluffing up all the other branches. So I just put up my third section of the tree, and I kind of wanted to show you a little trick that I do. I just stuck the section, you can tell is right here. See, I can move it. By this point, especially this one at eye level, I kind of want to make sure that it doesn't have any holes in the tree. So I just put it up there, and then I just kind of move the branches to where I want them to be before I pull down and fluff the rest of the branches. So I just plugged it in to make sure the lights work, and then I'll just go ahead and pull down those other branches that haven't been pulled down yet. And yes, this is getting very messy. So I'm just fluffing this layer or this section of the tree. And when I'm fluffing, I want to make sure especially that, I get these pieces that have kind of been bent in storage and just straighten them out. In nature, tree branches tend to go down, especially when they have snow on them. So, they'll kind of lean down a little bit more. And you want to make sure that your branches are kind of mimicking that too. So I don't know if you can tell, but this branch here that I just kind of fluffed, I spread out all the different needles and just kind of pulled this little front part down a little bit. Okay, I'm ready for the top of my tree. I think that's the last section. Yes, it is. I only have one more section. So this is a 9-foot tree, like I said, so it's going to be pretty high up. I'm going to run out to the garage and grab a ladder, and I'll be right back. Okay, I put up the last section at the top, and you can see where it was laying in the bag there. It needs to be fluffed. But I plugged in my lights, and somehow, miraculously, all my lights are working this year. I'm so happy. So this section, you kind of have to get up and down off the ladder a few times to make sure that everything's fluffed out. So you can still see that this side right here is pretty flat on the top. I just fluffed this side and I need to fill in that hole right there. Okay, so for the very top of the tree, as you can see, mine touches my ceiling. When you have branches at the top, you want to either make sure that they go straight up, so it looks like your tree's taller, or straight down. So that's starting to look a little more like a regular tree. The branches at the top of a real tree wouldn't stick out like this. They would go either kind of down with the rest of the tree or, like I said, straight up to make it look taller. So I'm just going to continue fluffing this section. Well, that's it. I've got my tree up. I can see a few branches that I'm still going to go and kind of bend here and there and fluff a little bit. You can kind of see there's kind of a hole over here, so I'll probably just kind of bend a little branch that way. And there's some cords that I'll try and hide a little bit better too and kind of stick them underneath the branches a little bit better. So I'll go through and do all of that before I put any ornaments on it. But as you can see, definitely was not a clean process. But I'm just going to go through and vacuum it all up right now. I always get asked a lot if the tree sheds during the season, and it does. I end up vacuuming, every couple days underneath, but nothing like this. This is just from all the wear and tear of storage and moving it in and out of the garage and bringing it into the house and, getting it bumped and everything. Once my tree's decorated, the kids and I really don't touch it very much at all. Okay, here we are all done. All of the dust and snow is cleaned up, and it's just ready to be decorated. I actually even love it just plain. I think it looks so pretty. So that's it. That's my tree. That's my whole process. I know it looks like it made a pretty huge mess. Keep in mind that my floors are dark, so it shows a lot more. Once I got it all cleaned up, it really doesn't shed a ton over the course of the season until I go to put it away again. And when I reflocked my tree, I put so much on there. So I was expecting a little bit of shedding after that last year.